It's June 2022 and I am back in Switzerland for the Basel edition of Art Basel. Over 200 leading galleries from all over the world are featured in Messeplatz, the main pavilion right behind me. It's the first, dare I say, post-pandemic show. No masks required, no COVID tests. It was very easy to check in. I'm so excited to see what they have inside. The participation is close to pre-pandemic. 289 galleries from 40 countries, including 19 first-timers, are showcasing art from modern of the 20th century to cutting edge of Louis Bourgeois' 11-foot spider at House and Work, $30 million. Galerie Le Long from Paris.
I am Patrice Cotorsin, director at Galerie Le Long in Paris.
As the DJs swept our sorrows away like black sparrows perched on telephone lines, we
The family-owned 100-year-old gallery with its Museum Quality artworks is located in a beautiful townhouse.
The hope that one day things will all make sense and there will be resurrection.
Shows of modern and contemporary art permanently since autumn 1945. Brought to Basel as always what we hope to be considered as great artworks.
Holistic right-brained thinking, creative thinking, visual.
Le Chien de Guet that he conceived in 1969 and of which this large version has been produced recently.
Holistic right-brained thinking, creative thinking, visual. Holistic right-brained thinking, creative thinking, visual. Holistic right-brained thinking, creative thinking, visual. Thinking, creative thinking, visual.
What about that beautiful sculpture in the back?
You mean the head?
Yes,
the head with the hand.
Yes.
Yes, this is done by a living artist, Jaume Plensa, a sculptor from Barcelona with which we work since more than 20 years now.
Creative thinking, visual thinking. This is the language of genius, the language of invention, the language of human progress.
Outdoor sculptures, public sculptures from Korea to United States, from Brazil to Spain, from Scandinavia to Italy and Austria. And we have presently a very important show of his work at our gallery in Paris.
Periodically, throughout my life, when somebody hears that I was an art major, I'd get looks that vary between sympathy and disdain.
Berlin Gallery is in Berlin since 2005, and we have two spaces. One is a bigger gallery near Checkpoint Charlie, and the other one is a smaller space in the same street where we host the archive of the drawings of Tony Craig. So usually we have two shows at the same time, one in the big space, one in the smaller space.
Behind these expressions is an implied question. What good is art anyway? My answer to that question is another question. What good is life?
There's no such name brand Nubian. No such name brand.
All the small questions are easy to answer.
Exhibition.
We brought a selection of works by Tony Craig, Jason Martin, by Bettina Pusci and Claire Woods. So I was really interested to create a dialogue between the artists and the works we present. So actually it was kind of a teamwork almost. So we would really talk to the individual artists, also tell them what we have in mind, sometimes even show them the works by the other artists we plan to show, so that everyone could react and we could create a momentum together.
Were any of the works created specifically for Art Basel?
Yes, specifically for Art Basel was created the work behind us, the polished sculpture by Bettina Pusci, but also the big painting by Claire Woods of the chandelier. This painting by Jason Martin, it's the first time it's presented. And there was another sculpture by Tony Craig, which was done for the fair, but that's already gone, yes.
So you sold it, right?
We did sell it,
oh,
yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So the show was a success, right?
It was a big success. We're really, really happy. It was wonderful to see people come back. It's like we continue where we stopped 4 years ago in 2019. So finally people came back.
My next guest as a well of knowledge on one of the most fascinating eras of contemporary art scene, the 60s and 70s in New York and London.
In London, yes.
And what's the primary focus of the gallery?
Well, my father was then contemporary, and then when I took over in 1970, so it wasn't so contemporary by the time he died.
What good is a car? A car lets you travel longer distances quicker than on foot. It offers more convenience and spontaneity than public transportation. It takes you to the grocery store to get food, which you need to live. But why would you want to live? Tougher. The meaning of life and the meaning of art are more difficult to define because they're less concrete and they're larger in scale. All of the practical, easy-to-answer questions are only easy to answer because they work in service of the more difficult questions. Logical thinking and creative thinking work together. They serve as checks and balances. They serve as checks and balances.
So I lived in New York basically for 3.5 years, which was a bit of 68, a bit of 69, then all 70, 71 and 72.
Probably had a lot of great time.
Yes, it was the right time to be there, absolutely.
Focusing on the ordinary tasks is how things get done. Without a reference point, however, it's easy for logical thinking to become less logical over time. Okay, working in middle management for a company that makes plastic stands for desk calendars puts food on the table for your family. But ultimately, it's not the plastic or the calendar or the desk or the food that
have a 9.
When you put things in perspective, these things are only remotely important if they're used in service of the people you care about and the experiences you share. You're born, you have experiences, and you die.
De Chirico, Dali, Max Ernst, Dorothea Tanning, Valentin Hugo. So they're all sort of related in one way or another. And then here we have a selection of drawings by Marlowe Moss, and then very early computer drawings by Vera Molnar, who's nearly 100 now, and she was one of the first people to do computer. You had to realize that these were they're on the original page, because they were done on these huge computers, which are probably bigger than this stand, and they had to go to universities which had them, and they had to work at night. And it was this paper which had, with the holes in it, so boink, boink out like that. But they're quite extraordinary. And then we have this sculpture by Marlowe Moss, which is extraordinary, very rare thing that we sold to the local museum. Then we have I think he's a fascinating artist called John Tweddle, and they all came from this Skull collection, and Skull was his sort of I suppose his mentor, or his, the Medici for him. Tweddle came to New York in 1968 as a angry young man from Kentucky, and they're quite extraordinary, and they're so modern now, with art written on it and then dollar signs and all the rest. It's nothing's new. And then he left in about 72 or 73, went back, still an angry young man. But in those years, when he was in New York, he was collected by Philip Johnson, Skull, the Tremaines. So it was very, but he sort of disappeared. But I bought the collection from Skull estate, and these are all I have left, but I think they're really fun. And then we have Billy Apple there, who was originally from New Zealand, came to England. We have a show on of neon rainbows that Robert Fraser, the legendary Robert Fraser, was supposed to do in London in '64. He gave him the idea, and Robert freaked, so I can't, this is too much. And so Billy Apple went to New York, and then he made the pieces and had the show with Paul Bianchini, and nothing, so they went back in the crates. And so our show in London, the things haven't been out of the crates since 1966. Then we have at the moment, well, it closes today in Geneva, an extraordinary artist called Verena Losenberg, who was a part of the Zurich Concrete Group. And so we have a work by her, and we're trying to build that market up. And then we have two Morales, and then another very interesting because Raymond Gurka, and we'll be doing an exhibition of his in October in London. So that's really basically it.
If I ask people on the street what is the meaning of life, it's possible that no two would give me the same answer. Yet clearly, for most of us, life does have meaning. So how can we have so many conflicting ideas about life? Beyond the individual labels and philosophies, this is the ultimate shared experience. So why do we lose sight of this and waste time killing each other over the specifics? Maybe what we share on the deepest level is more difficult to put into words. So how can we express something that we can't put into words?
Meditation follows while the student sounds a big L for all that is hollow. I am the light, I am the light, I am the light for these fallen angels that whip afros back, shooting stardust into black moons as the crowds going buckshot.